It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? I've always wanted to have a neighbor just like you. I've always wanted to pray in the neighborhood with you. So let's get a start to this beautiful day. Let's get together and sit down and pray. The Lord be with you and with your spirit. Won't you please? Won't you please? Please, won't you pray for your neighbor? Welcome, welcome, welcome to this week's episode of Father Ralph's Neighborhood. I'm Father Ralph's Word, and you found your way into my little online neighborhood. We're here every week to talk about the scriptures from the previous Sunday, and hopefully to give you all something to pray about, to think about, to take with you into your day-to-day life. I don't believe in luck. I really don't. The only thing I've ever won in my life, well, when I was a youngster, I won a Schwinn bicycle from our savings and loan, Grundfund savings and loan. And I've also won jury duty. Yeah, I've won jury duty on a couple of occasions, but that's it. That's it. Apart from a $2 ticket here and again in the lottery, no. So to say that I've had some bad luck producing these episodes, well, that's something that I really don't subscribe to. Speaking of which, if you want to make sure you never miss an episode, please subscribe. That way, no matter when I'm able to get it online, you'll receive notification and be able to watch. So if you have been a regular viewer, you know we try to put these episodes out early in the week. But for the last several weeks, I've had several things go wrong. First, with my computer equipment, I fixed that. We're in good shape now with all of my computer gizmos. Then I got like a head cold, and I felt like my head was going to explode, and it affected my voice. And literally, when I felt like I could talk, I dropped everything, and I came rushing to the computer to do an episode. This week, head cold's gone, computer's working, and I get food poisoning. Now, I don't want to mention the name of the restaurant because, it could have been a fluke. Could have been. But, it took the whole week. This is Friday morning, and it's the first morning I woke up feeling myself again. So I thank you for being here. And it's a very important episode this week because this episode is for Good Shepherd Sunday. Good Shepherd Sunday is that Sunday on which we celebrate our belief that Jesus is our Good Shepherd. And here in the Archdiocese of Chicago, Good Shepherd Sunday has way before I was ever a priest been a day that the Archdiocese Vocations office asks all priests to preach about how it is they chose to become a priest. It is also the worldwide day of prayer for vocations. This is the 60th anniversary of that celebration. And, it's not just vocations to the priesthood, it's also vocations to the diaconate. It's not just vocations to ordained life, it's vocations to professed religious life, and it's vocations to lay ministry. Our church could not possibly do what it is doing if it were not for lay people stepping up to the plate and serving our church as lectors, as Eucharistic ministers, as cantors, as ushers, as altar servers, you name it. We need you. So that's what we're celebrating today. But in keeping with tradition, I'd like to share with all of you my story of how I became a priest. Our gospel this week is the Gospel of St. John, chapter 10, and we're reading verses 1 through 10. Jesus said, "Amen, amen, I say to you, whoever does not enter a sheepfold through the gate, but climbs over elsewhere, is a thief and a robber. But whoever enters through the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens it for him. The sheep hear his voice as the shepherd calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has driven out all his own, he walks ahead of them, and the sheep follow him because they recognize his voice. But they will not follow a stranger. They will run away from him because they do not recognize the voice of strangers." Although Jesus used this figure of speech, the Pharisees did not realize what he was trying to tell them. And so Jesus said again, "Amen, amen, I say to you, I am the gate for the sheep. All who came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not listen to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved and will come in and go out and find pasture. A thief comes only to steal and slaughter and destroy. I came so that they might have life and have it more abundantly." The gospel of our Lord. We're having slight technical difficulties with our musical accompaniment. Don't worry. There we go. So the orchestra was giving me trouble, but don't worry. They're feeling much better now. So how did it all start? A lot of people think, and I suppose there are priests out there who know from their earliest days in their childhood that they want to be priests. No, that wasn't that way with me. When I was a little kid, I knew exactly what I wanted to be when I grew up. I wanted to be a garbage man. Oh, don't laugh, because in those days we didn't have these very sophisticated garbage removal systems with the trucks that lift the rolling carts up and dump them automatically. We didn't have any of that. We used oil drums, empty, of course. Oil drums. We filled those with our garbage, and once a week, these big, strong guys, yeah, I have come to pick up your garbage. They would come and they would get these drums full of garbage, put them on the back of the truck, and roll them from side to side to make sure that all the garbage was out of them. And then the truck itself was a marvel to behold. This huge scoop would come down and scoop all of the garbage out and pull it into the truck. Well, that's what I wanted to do when I grew up. Mom, well, she wasn't all that thrilled with the idea of me wanting to be a garbage man when I grew up. But we were in the beginnings of the space race, and there was a huge push in education to teach youngsters science and technology so that we could grow up and be scientists and astronauts. And Mom was all in favor of that because even though I was not named after Ralph Cramden, she very often used that wonderful line, "To the moon, Ralph!" So I think she wanted to send me a lot of days. Well, the teachers did a fantastic job of getting me ready. I science was my specialty, but much to Mom's disappointment, I had no illusions of becoming an astronaut. I didn't want to go to the moon. I was very happy where I was. My hobby was meteorology. I had a weather shed, which my uncle Matt Marino, God rest his soul, helped me build and put up in my backyard. And I went out every morning and I took measurements, temperature, and you name it. I was a dedicated weather observer, an amateur meteorologist, and I remain one to this day. My uncle Rich Parmenter, God rest his soul, he took me to Midway Airport to meet the meteorologist there. He took me to Northern Illinois University to see the School of Meteorology there. And that's when things started to come into focus, I realized I had only satisfied half of the equation. I loved science and I was very, very good at it, but I was horrible at math. And, found out that in order to become a meteorologist, I needed Calculus 1, Calculus 2, Calculus 3, Calculus 4, and I was having a hard time with AP Calculus at Bogan. Mr. Merwick, my teacher, had mercy on my soul, God rest his soul. Anyway, he gave me a C. It was a mercy C, so that I could pass the class. Now, that's not to say that I didn't learn something about calculus. In fact, I still use calculus to this day. I use imaginary numbers. You know, those numbers you put a little I, lowercase I next to them, imaginary numbers. I use imaginary numbers to balance my checkbook. And I go to the bank and I'll show the teller, but look, I still have 4I in my account. The check should not have bounced. Anyway, so to put it mildly, kids, I was lost. I had always dreamed about being a meteorologist, not on TV, but joining the Navy and predicting weather for aircraft carriers at sea. And now that dream was just destroyed by numbers. So, just to show you, the Holy Spirit works in strange and mysterious ways. I went to see my counselor at Bogan, and she was sick. And so I had to see the other counselor. Wonderful man. He was great. But if I had seen my own counselor, my story might not have worked out this way. But my counselor, I talked to the other counselor, said to me, Ralph, what we found is that young people need to look up to the adults in their life for guidance. And I'd like you to go home and make a list of 10 adults in your life who you look up to, who you respect, who you know personally, who you can talk to, who you could trust for their guidance. And I'm like, okay. They made a point of telling me, put them in order from 1 to 10. So I did. I worked very hard on that list. It took me about 2 weeks. Finally, when the list was finished, I went back to see the counselor again. And he said, now, Ralph, I don't want to see that list. That list was for you. Because we have found over the years that the reason a young person looks up to an adult in their life outside of their immediate family is because of what that adult is doing with their life. And so you not only have a list of 10 adults who you can go to and seek their advice and their counsel, you also have a list of 10 vocations that you admire, that you respect, that you aspire to. And I thanked him very much, and I left his office so brokenhearted because the top 2 people on my list were priests. And I was like, there is no way I could ever be a priest. I started wrestling when I was in 7th grade. I enjoyed beating up on other people. I had an outrageous, still have, an outrageous sense of humor. And probably because of school and wrestling and everything, not only did I swear, but I put swear words in the middle of other swear words. I'm like, no, neither of these 2 priests did any of that. But thank God, number 3 on my list was our neighbor George from across the street. George was a police detective, and I said to myself, there's something I could do. Because, you watch TV and police officers, they were a rough and tumble sort of guy, and I could see them cussing and swearing, and, So I went across the street, as I did just about every evening in the summer. That was back when you could sit on your porch in the summer and not have to worry about being shot at, right? So we used to sit together every night just about in the summer. I talked to George. I said, George, told him everything I just told you. And he said, well, Ralph, gee, you'd make a great policeman, and I'd be happy to take you and show you the ropes. But before I do that, I want you to talk to Father Graff, who was priest number one on my list, Father Austin Graff. And you talk with Father Graff because I think you would make a wonderful priest. Well, okay, fine. I was the substitute organist at St. Thomas More, and our regular organist, Joe Hardy, God rest his soul, he was sick, and I had to cover all of the masses that weekend. You know, back then we had so many people going to church on Sunday. We had an upper church and a lower church, and they had masses running simultaneously up and down. So with Joe out of the picture, I had to do all of the masses in both churches. And, well, actually, I got to tell you, I kind of enjoyed masses in the lower church. They had this classic old Hammond organ with the tone wheels. In order to turn the organ on, you had to hold the button in and let the tone wheels spin up to speed, and then flip the switch. But if you weren't careful, if you had a little OCD, you'd go downstairs, you'd say, "Oh, this organ is crooked. It's at an angle," and so you'd straighten the organ out, as I did, and I found out the hard way that when you straighten the organ out, it picks up the control tower at Midway Airport. So you had to leave the organ where it was. Oh, I loved that little organ, and I loved the big organ upstairs. And guess what weekend I had to play all of the masses at? Good Shepherd Sunday. So I got to listen to every single priest in our parish tell the story of how, why he became a priest. And, the last priest who said the last mass, the latest mass upstairs in the upper church was number one priest on my list. And that was, of course, Father Graff. Well, we had a passageway that connected the sacristy of the church to the rectory. And this is big steel fire door. So Father Graff was trying to push that door open by backing into it. And I came up to him. I said, gee, Father Graff, I'd like to talk to you about becoming a priest. Wow. He fell through the door. And God rest his soul, he took me under his wing, and he helped me find my way to the vocations counselor at the seminary. I was delighted to find out that I didn't need to learn Latin. I could stay with my classmates at Bogan and graduate from Bogan and start my seminary training at Niles College, which is no longer there. But I was convinced they were going to throw me out. I really was. But when I got there, I found out, you know what? Yeah, there were guys there who were holier than St. Francis and St. Dominic. But there were also guys there who made the seminary look like Animal House. So I was kind of somewhere in the middle. And for the first time in my life, I thought, you know what, maybe, just maybe, I could do this. Went through 9 years of seminary training. Only two at Niles because Cardinal Cody, uh, God rest his soul, sent me and my classmate Ed to study philosophy at Catholic University in Washington, D.C. Came back and finished my theological training at Mundelein Seminary, where just about every priest was trained. And the seminary had the wisdom to know that, ordination is really just the beginning. So when I was ordained May 18th, 1985, I was assigned to my first pastor. And it was the job of your first pastor to finish your training, to get you really ready to be a parish priest. And I was so blessed to be assigned to Father Mike Adams at St. Gall Parish. I don't know if he thought he was blessed to get me, but the two of us made quite the dynamic duo. And thanks to his guidance, thanks to his friendship, thanks to his mentoring, I've become the priest that I am today. So kids, it's not an easy road. There's no clear signposts, right? People talk about getting a call. I didn't even get a postcard, all right? It's never too late, though, to make your list. Think about 10 people who you really look up to. And I'm not just talking to the youngsters who are listening, I'm talking to all of you. It's never too late to make that list. Take your time with it and realize when you're finished, you've got 10 people who you trust, 10 people who you admire, 10 people who you can turn to for advice and wise counsel. And if you're ever lost, like I was, and you're wondering, what should I do with my life? You'll also have 10 vocations that you look up to and you admire. So, my dear friends, pray on the 60th World Day of Prayer for Vocations. Pray that more young people will make their list and find their way to their calling in life. But I'd also like to leave you with one final thought. You may be on someone else's list, and you may be number one on their list. So, good Lord willing and creek don't rise, we'll be here again. Gosh, I hope nothing else goes wrong next week, or else I may actually have to start to believe in karma. But we'll be back next Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, as soon as we can get back with next week's episode of Father Ralph's Neighborhood. Until then, I pray that the Lord will send his angels to watch over you, to protect you, to guard you, and to guide you in all of your ways. That he will fill you with the power of his most Holy Spirit. That you will always know your vocation in life, and that you will always be available to anyone who needs your guidance to help them find their way to their vocation in life. May the Lord bless you and all those you love. May he make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May he lift up his countenance upon you and give you his peace.